and I'm a cannabis attorney, so I do cannabis law and am very much pro recreational sales. But, huh?
Oh, excuse me to interrupt. I see the similarity. But
Yeah.
continue.
So, but one of the issues that we will see, and again, as a time of filming, the budget still isn't done. Just yesterday, Governor Spanberger announced that there was. So this might be changed by the time that this goes out, and I apologize to your audience. Governor Spanberger just announced a deal to allow for 350 licenses that would come into effect in 2027, July 2027. But one of the concerns that I have is that they're going to prioritize the border areas. And one of the issues with that is that it doesn't address a lot of the things that they were talking about as trying to address, like addressing the impact that the war on drugs has had on marginalized communities, like addressing the fact that we want new entrepreneurs and new businesses here in the city, like addressing the fact that they're only taxing. Sorry, I'm on my high horse.
That was good. This is my next question.
Like them addressing the relatively low tax, the tax. Agreement in Spanberger's press announcement. Now, again, they haven't released what all it is. It's just that they had this announcement and went through what they are doing. So I don't know what the language is going to be like yet. But they had it as 1.5% to 3%, I believe, for localities, on top of a 8 or 9% state. That is very, very low when it comes to cannabis recreational sales across the country.
Right.
And it's very low for, Roanoke. And also, as far as I can tell, and again, this might be up in the air, et cetera, et cetera. I'm a lawyer, so I tend to
indeed. This is breaking news a little bit on it.
Yeah. But one of the things that I have concern about is that while this may sound good, it may not always help Roanoke specifically. And because they're evenly applying it, I think, and again, might change, over the entire state. If we had an opt-in system for locality, I could see this very much helping Roanoke, because just given our demographics, given our politics, given everything, I could see Roanoke being a center hub because of the areas around us that have good agriculture. We have the interstate, the railroad, and those types of things where we could, distribute to the rest of Virginia. But as it is now, I don't think that it is the wisest move to evenly apply that throughout the state.
Let's just continue with that for a minute.
Yeah, sure.
I might come back to the Virgo, I might not. But I've been following it so close since the Youngkin veto, and
now Spanberger vetoed. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, I don't mean to be partisan, but I'm just pointing out.
True. True. Of course, recently, surprisingly so, it seemed like even. It's good to pull back and remember how far we've come. And now it's here in Virginia, which you can understand California and Colorado and Oregon a little bit, but it's here and being discussed in a serious fashion. What would be the best, if you could choose, what would be the best retail scenario, or what would you do differently from your experience with it in the retail aspects? Maybe specifically focused to how it would work best in Roanoke,
Oh man, you got 5 hours.
I know it's time.
No, I know.
We don't have to hit all the points, but just for, there's a lot of people that aren't aware.
Yeah, so I mentioned the opt-in system. I think that would be beneficial for Roanoke. I think that not putting a cap on the licensing numbers would also probably work out better, and that's more of a legal concern that I have, which would take way too long for me to explain. I think that basically making sure that there are consistent, robust, checks on what you're buying, and also making sure that kids don't get a hold of it. And what I mean by that is one of the things that I've spent some time out in the other states that have legalized recreational. The best one that I've seen was pretty early on in Washington State, where they had eyes on, before you went in, like with your ID. Then before you made purchase, or when you went in with somebody else, and then when you made purchase, like you had 3 checks on if you could, were old enough to buy. And that way it allows for those types of things. I would also make sure that there are some aspects. I want to make sure that there is a state bank set up by the Commonwealth. One of the realities is that the FDIC does not, is very ornery about cannabis. I know one of my colleagues, he was attended a conference, and he's a lawyer, and that was cannabis focused. And the bank shut down his account for purchasing a ticket to the conference, not anything dealing with the plant.
This was after rescheduling?
Yes. No, it wasn't after rescheduling. It was after legal sales for Colorado. Oh, so it's been a while.
Nonetheless.
One of the things, rescheduling has changed a little bit with the federal government choosing to reschedule. It's still very new. And we're still working through a lot of that stuff. But so, on the state level, these types of things end up being, the largest things that I would kind of want to address is the licensing, the bank, and the opt-in system. On the federal level, so there's this portion of IRS Tax Code 280E where basically it states that if you have an illegal business, you don't get the standard deductions. And while that that sounds very boring, and
No, I get it.
Yeah,
you can't write off your expenses like any other business do, which is key for the business model.
So, I have this theory that the more states that end up legalizing recreational, the less likely the federal government would. Because, somewhere there's probably an accountant that has done the math and realizes these cannabis companies that touch the plant pay 70 cents on the dollar for, in their tax to the federal government versus effectively, I think it's 30 cents on the dollar for pretty much anything else. So I know it sounds like a niche issue. I am well aware of that, and it's well beyond the scope of Roanoke City. But it is something where, as we're going towards the legal market, that we need to come to terms with.
If we could choose our fantasy world in the future or something, I've become a recent fan of the cannabis infused drinks, and also with people drinking less, especially younger people drinking less, how that might change the culture. I was imagining the day where you go to a bar,
So here's the crazy thing, right? In Colorado, which obviously has the most longest period of time for recreational adult use over 21 sales, right. They have seen teenage usage drop for cannabis over the same period of time.
Fascinating.
And the hypothesis, it's really hard to kind of test this. The hypothesis is that, kids might look at it and be like, well, mom likes Chardonnay and likes to, imbibe with cannabis. It's possible that might be, it's not seen as cool anymore because it's not, forbidden. It's not these types of things. So, but yeah, so to your point, I mean, there is probably going to be a massive market for both alcohol industries and certain other companies to get in on the cannabis game.
With you, speaking of being in the game, what you have as a cannabis attorney, is it a conspiracy to think that the pharmaceutical companies or the tobacco industry is backing all this negative press and slowing down it until they can get it figured out where they can sell a box of joints like they can Marlboro Reds?
Man, there's Marlboro Green. You've seen that.
I happily quit smoking 4 cigarettes 4 years ago.
JP or Reynolds and all these other companies that are these multi-billion-dollar companies. They're not dumb. They probably have had the market research on to address some of this stuff. I think it's a little bit conspiratorial with some of it, right? Like when we talk about tobacco in particular, they stand to make money. Like, I think that they would be well primed for some of this stuff. What I don't think is necessarily conspiratorial is certain opioids. And because one of the things that we typically see, and we have seen, and the data suggests this, that as you see increasing cannabis usage, you see a decreased use of opioids. And so when you have effectively a company that produces things that are, addictive, shooting for something which is it can be addictive. Like, cannabis use disorder is a real thing. Like, that's not but like that's psychologically addicting, not necessarily physiological. So, there is some studies which suggest about the reduction in opioids when it comes to cannabis in particular. Again, it does require more research, like anything else. I mean, one of the things that, because of our prohibition on it for the last century, that we've seen is a reduction in cannabis research and cannabinoid research. A good example is most people are aware of tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, and kind of recognize like that's this active ingredient in cannabis, or one of the active ingredients in cannabis. That was only discovered in the 90s. Or I believe in the 90s. It could be earlier. It might have been the 70s. Somewhere in between, like the late last century.
In the medical timeline,
that's something which is, like kind of thing. But we would have, when cannabis was made illegal, you would have people testifying before Congress that, there's some chemical in it that makes it super addictive. That type of thing wouldn't have been known at the time, because we didn't know exactly everything that was in it, because we didn't have the technology to understand that.
Oh, the great smear campaign on THC.
Anslinger, man.
Dark William Randolph Hearst.
See, I've heard that theory with him wanting, like, a hemp piece of paper will last longer than a tree piece of paper. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it definitely some forces working against it that didn't have the best interests of the people at hand.
But, I could talk forever about this stuff, but the reality is that this is a legitimate business, that this is something which I think that we can, Roanoke is poised to potentially be pretty well off in. It's just a matter of if the Commonwealth gets it right on the state level.
Just got a couple more.
Yeah.
Time. I just got to add to that. I think it was in Dan Casey in the Roanoke Times about the plant race, and that was when Rita and I just moved to town. We felt good about moving here, but I was like, man, this really feels good to read this right when we moved here.
I loved it. I was very disappointed that I don't think he did one for me in the second time I ran. I think he just focused on the mayor's race. And I was just like, man, you literally could have somebody who knows what he's talking about when he's talking about, cannabis law and policy. Like, you didn't want to include us, but no, I give a lot of credence to Dan, and we've had great conversations about the limitations of both, the current law as it is, and where I think a lot of people would like to see going.